So what we have is the ILO statistics say that in Africa, broadly, the informal workforce is about 90% of the workforce. So why are we talking about formal sector in the book? Well, I think, first of all, as economies grow and formalize and continue to develop, so will the formal sector. And that's why whatever we have as observations there are going to be very scalable and very important to keep an eye on. The other thing actually is very interesting, that there's a lot of lessons to be learned with the formal sector and vice versa with the informal sector. And one of the primary things is that the formal sector, all of the big global organizations that have championed all of the developments in social security over the years, ILO, World Bank, IOPS, they've been primarily focused on the formal sector up until now. And that means that there are a lot of frameworks and guidelines that are already in place that can be leveraged as well. So that means for the formal sector in the book as well, we can immediately address things around technology, delivery, tightening compliance and things like that. So I hope that there's a lot of lessons learned and a cross-fertilization of ideas and observations that we can bring. There is a great couple of huge differences straight off the bat, which is interesting. The first one is that in Africa, when we're now talking about the formal sector, we really in our chapter are focusing on the ILO Pillar 1, that is the mandatory old age social security provision that private sector employers have to provide. So the big thing that we saw there, and I see and observe, is that the vast majority is defined benefit in nature. Whenever we're talking about everything else in the book, it's primarily defined contribution in nature. Actually, a lot of that can be leveraged despite being different. And I won't, you can read the chapter later on to find out a few more details around that. The second big difference is that we have one big other stakeholder in the room that we don't have in the informal sector, at least from an established point of view historically, and that is the formal sector employer. And what that means is that the ecosystem that we operate in and we want to build upon, and the discussions that the book is trying to promote between so many different stakeholders, is that the ecosystem needs to cater to all shapes and sizes of employers, the nature of the employer-employee relationship today, but also in the future. And therefore, the focus on compliance and governance as well. The biggest similarity is the one of employee or workforce education. And that, just education and awareness, that's the biggest similarity. I think there are 3 or 4 big areas that we talk about. The first one is, when you're talking about the formal sector, is continuity of connection with that ecosystem, even when you change jobs or change careers or change your pattern of work over the years. And that's historically, we've always spoken about portability in the formal sector, but I think that needs to probably change to the word continuity of provision. The second thing is going back to the fact that defined benefit is the large proportion. The technology play has to be able to leverage on top of what's already there for promoting voluntary savings seamlessly, and how that sort of then connects with the informal sector and all the infrastructure that's going to be built around there. The third is digital enabled processes for compliance. Employer, employee, submitting returns, contributions, enrollments, all of that kind of thing. And obviously promoting transparent and accessible records and governance. And finally, it's to educate the employees. And I think that's the one biggest area which cuts across no matter what sort of employee or sector you're talking about. And I hope the chapter can sort of bring out the differences, show a few highlights around a few of the specific countries in Africa that we've decided to dive into a little bit, and also make some analogies from around the world as well while we sort of have those observations.